Hey everyone, it's Will, the host of the Everyman Drummer podcast, the one that you can listen to on Spotify, Stitcher, Pocket Casts, Apple Podcasts, all of those other podcast places. But here's the best part. You're probably wondering, how am I getting it distributed? Well, I'm here to tell you that, and you have to check it out. Anchor.fm, or even downloading the Anchor app on Android and Apple iOS systems right there. It's so easy that anybody can use it to start their own podcast. Hell, even me, a drummer, can use it to start their own podcast. And the best thing, check this out, the best thing about using this app, you guessed it, it's free. And they also help you distribute your podcast against all the other platforms that are being used today for everybody to get their podcast listened to out there. So I encourage you guys, check it out. If you really want to get a podcast started, use Anchor.fm. It's the only one that I use. I know there's other hosting sites out there, but this one is absolutely 100% free. You just need your email address, and you got to have a cool voice to use it. Maybe, but who knows? But you all get the point of it. It's really easy to get it started, and check it out on Anchor.fm. Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the Everyman Drummer podcast, and I'm your host Will, and we're going to start today's discussion off by talking about the great debate. It seems like everybody has their own, ways of debating this topic. This one's a fairly simple one for me and a lot of other people, but really when you're coming to debate this topic that we're going to get into, it really doesn't matter what you do or how you play. And the debate that we're going to get into, if you guys haven't tried to figure it out yet, we're going to talk about traditional grip versus matched grip. Now I play mainly traditional grip. I've been switching it around to, depending on what the situation calls for and what is going on with it, I will switch over to match grip. I started off learning playing traditional grip in the earlier years when I, at the beginning, I was taught to play traditional grip, and then they slowly moved it over to match grip. Depending on the teacher that I was going with at the time, I did split it up between, playing traditional and match grip. Now, the difference is that I feel when I play using traditional grip is there's a little more you can do. For me, it's a lot easier to move the left hand between the hi-hat and snare if you're doing quick accents. Other than that, I can really play with the same amount of power and the same amount of downbeat if I were to use traditional grip or match grip on the snare drum. I still get that snap on there. Depending on who you talk to and the different cats that I've worked with in the past, they will tell you that there's certain aspects of me playing traditional grip, I get a better sounding snare drum, and that may be true. And then there's guys that say that I get the same amount of power using matched grip on the snare drum. I get the same crack on there as well. So there's certain albums that I've recorded with artists in the past that have been I've been playing traditional grip, and sometimes you can pick up on it, you can hear it depending on the little nuances that I play on the snare drum, or the little ghost notes that are on, depending on what songs that were being recorded. I will tell you this, for the Majesty, when I was playing in the Majesty live band, when we did the touring gig back in 2013, I want to say it was, I did play prominently more with the traditional grip than anything else, just to get more of that snap on his snare drum. It was kind of the music that we were doing was a hip hop mix with rock, so it was more like the Roots style hip hop. There was a lot of figures of blues and jazz mixed in there, so it kind of blended really, really well. And Majesty will tell you that his favorite sounding snare drum is the one that I recorded with, which was my my go-to guy at that time was 5.5 by 14 Premier aluminum shell snare drum, and I used that to record his entire album. And with that, he got the crack and the tone that he liked on there, specifically from that drum. And I'd usually like to take, a couple of snare drums with me just to get a different, tones and different, different feels for depending on the song that we're doing. But with his, since it's not the first time that he's heard that snare drum. When I did the record with Michael Charles back in 2003, the sound of the snare drum on that album, it was I want to say it was the tight snare drum with a lot of upper high end on it, and then it had a lot of crack, and it would cut through the mix very well. But if I recall correctly, I believe that snare drum was used on that album too with Michael Charles. I believe I may have switched out to such a long time ago that I don't remember, but with Majesty, it was prominently the 5.5 by 14 Premier all aluminum snare drum that was recorded on his album, and the crack and the pop out of that one was mainly in part for the tuning of the drum, but also because I was playing traditional grip, and I was able to get more of a crack and more of a snap on that snare drum. It was kind of reminiscent of Stuart Copeland. He was another one that played mainly traditional grip, and a lot of the times you would hear on his playing, there was a lot. His snare drum was not only the way he tuned it, he was tuned really high on the batter head, and also on the resonant head to get that quick reaction in between both heads. He also played traditional grip, and on the top of his snare drum, I've seen the snare drum itself, the signature model that he has out with Tama. It's a die-cast hoop on the top, and then a regular triple flanged hoop on the bottom. Now, the die-cast hoop on the top will help a lot to get more of that crack on there. I don't use die-cast hoops personally. I don't like them. I prefer just the standard triple flanged hoop, as like they all are on my drum kits. And the only snare drum that doesn't have a triple flanged hoop is the Slingerland artist model that I have here, the vintage one. This has what they call the Slingerland stick chopper hoops. Those hoops are rounded inward toward the head, and they do break a lot of sticks. I'm not gonna lie, sticks just you're going to use that drum, sticks go there to die. Eventually, I am going to change that hoop to more of a triple flanged hoop on the top, just for that sake. And I like the way, I'm not going to, there's a nostalgia and vintage aspect for that drum, but it's more, in modern times, I like to use that drum now, and I get a better feel off of it if it had the triple flanged hoops on there as well. But back to the traditional grip thing, me personally, I get a lot of more snap and more crack on there's more snap, crackle, and pop on the snare, if you would, me using the traditional grip. Now, I do play a lot of jazz, and I've been recording some funk and R&B recently, but again, those dictate sometimes whether or not I will use a traditional grip versus the match grip. Now, when it comes to doing rudiments, is one way easier or the other? It depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to go a million miles an hour, you might find it easier to do it with traditional, with a match grip, because you can get the fingers to go if you're using a lot of finger control. I've seen guys do that where their finger control is just phenomenal. Mike Mangini, for one, he plays mainly matched grip, but his finger control is just phenomenal on what he can make that drumstick do. He will also play using traditional grip. He's just all around. He was a field percussion guy, so he will do that. And then you look at guys like a Keith Carlock, who was a field marching drummer as well, and he plays mainly. I don't think I've ever seen him play matched grip. Some of you guys out there, if you guys can, if you guys want, I mean, feel free to share some moments of Keith Carlock playing using matched grip. That'd be pretty interesting to see, because it's you get used to seeing certain guys playing in a certain way that when you see them playing in a different, holding their drumstick a different way, it's kind of weird out there. It's the same whole thing that happened with Neil Peart when he started playing traditional grip on the Test for Echo album, and they saw it. He's playing traditional grip in rock music, but that's not the first time that's happened. I believe Cozy Powell was one. Was it Cozy Powell? I believe it was Cozy Powell did play rock music using traditional grip. We might want to check that as well. But when we saw Neil playing traditional grip and playing the old Rush songs using traditional grip, it was pretty mesmerizing to see. But then he went back and he started playing more, form follows function. He started using, match grip again. I'm comfortable both ways. It's like that whole debate, 2 bass drums or a double kick pedal. That's another debate on its own right there. With what I do, mainly playing straight ahead grooves, again, I will switch back and forth with traditional grip and match grip. Now, again, back on the rudiment topics, I find it easier for me. I've always warmed up using traditional grip, and sometimes I'll warm up using matched grip. But for me, using traditional grip, it'll help me utilize and get through the rudiments a lot faster than I would if I was using matched grip. But then that also helps to translate over to the match grip, because whatever you can do using traditional grip, you can do it using match grip. And that's where the debate is. It's always wonder. It's if you can play a fast single stroke roll, you can play a fast single stroke roll using traditional grip. It doesn't have to be one way or the other. The only thing, you can play a little bit softer, because your hand actually, the stick sits on top of the hand, and your hand is kind of cradling the drumstick. So when you're playing, you're almost you can play and do a lot more. I guess you can play softer, use finesse on there, and just, be able to, for me, it's easier to move around that way versus, and using grace notes, it's a lot easier to do a traditional grip, at least on my end it is. Maybe not so much for some of you guys out there. Maybe some of you agree it is easier to do it that way, and some of you will, say it's a lot easier to do it the other way. I've done both. It just, whatever, like anything else when it comes to drumming, it is a very personal, it's personal preference on what you want to do. And that's, the whole thing with the joy of being able to play the drums and being able to play music is, it's a personal preference. There's no set rules. There's no rules on saying, oh, you play jazz, you have to play traditional grip. That's not necessarily the case. I've seen great jazz players play using matched grip, and some of the things they do using matched grip, it's just like you would never think that it was that they were using matched grip. You would think that they're doing traditional grip. There's really no way to tell. And then you hear some rock players just playing heavy grooves, and they're using traditional grip, and it's like, wow, Virgil Donati is one. I didn't know that he played traditional grip until I actually watched him. He gets so much power using traditional grip, but that left hand of his is very, very fast. So, and then the other day, I just recently discovered Carter Mclain on YouTube. It's just phenomenal player right there. And he does a lot of the jazz, type grooves and whatnot. And he's one of those drummers that's like that you would see in like a jazz trio. And if you just sit there and you listen to how he plays, you would think that he is using traditional grip, and then he is using matched grip, just with all the stuff that he's playing on there. So really, the argument is that I think the argument is it's an argument for the sake of an argument. If you understand that, I mean, I think it's just people just saying they just want to pick an argument saying that one way is better than the other and versus the other way. To me, they're equally just as great. You like I said, there's even times in the middle of a song that I would switch from traditional grip over to more of a match grip, just to maybe there's something that I need to do on there that calls for just for me to get around. You know, maybe something's just a little bit easier to play it using traditional grip, or I'm sorry, just using matched grip. But I'll go swish in between, you know, my grips from time. It's all a matter of adjustment, and if you can play your rudiments great one way, and then you can translate it over to the other way, and you can play them great in both ways, then you know what? Then you shouldn't be arguing with yourself, or you shouldn't be arguing with anybody about which way is better, as long as whatever works for you. And that's what it comes down to. Well, if you're comfortable playing traditional grip and you're playing in a heavy metal band, play using traditional grip. If you're comfortable using match grip and you're in a big band setting, play big band setting. There's no rules or anything saying. I remember one time I was playing more so in a rock and an alternative band, and there's times that I would play using, you know, traditional grip, and it was, you know, just for the specifics of a song, it was just easier just to go through it and play that way. But yeah, for the most parts of that gig, I was using matched grip for that stuff. And sometimes, like, again, in solo work, I will go from match grip to a traditional grip, just depending on what I'm doing there. If I'm doing fast snare drum rolls, I'll switch over to more of a traditional grip on that aspect there. But that's what today's debate or discussion was about. Which one is better? To me, neither one. They're equally just as well. They're equally great for all of the for what you need to do. It's all depending on your personal preference on the matter itself. So again, I'm not here to tell you guys which way's better. I'm not here to say you can't use that in that situation, or you can't use that one in that situation over there. It's all personal preference, like anything else. Again, traditional grip versus match grip, it's all on you. You're the one that's going to get the credit. You're the one that's going to make it sound great. The grip isn't going to dictate whether or not you play well. It's all about how you guys play. And that's where I stand on that topic right there. And if anybody wants to shout anything out, I really appreciate some of the comments that should come back this way. Hit me up on Twitter at Will Geronimo, at Will Geronimo, and that's my Twitter handle there. You can find me there. And shoot me questions, shoot me suggestions for anybody that, you know, you guys want to talk about a specific topic. Let's talk about it. Let's see what's going on, and we'll talk about what's the latest in the drumming industry and how everything else goes. You know, it'll come around full circle. Again, this is the Everyman Drummer podcast. I want to thank you guys for listening. Newcomers, welcome. Returning guys, welcome. Leave a like. Hit that. Put a 5-star review. That's how it gets it out there on any way that you guys get your podcasts out. Not going to say all that other stuff that you guys already heard before on other podcasts, but yeah, it does help us out if you leave a review or something. If you hate the show, you hate it. If you like it, that's great. But yeah, tell us what you guys want to hear. Again, this show is about us drummers just getting around and talking about what's new in the industry, and it's for you guys. I'm doing this for you guys to get a voice out there. Let's talk about all this stuff. So that's going to do it for today. We will catch you next time, and everybody be good and keep on drumming.